Hey guys, I'd like to welcome you to the Kortex Media Podcast, where we navigate the fast-paced world of automotive and more. I'm your host, Corson Schmidt. Here today, I have Alex Noll joining me. Alex is the founder and owner of ABR Houston, one of Texas's most trusted European auto repair shops, with 23 years in the industry. Alex is both a BMW Master Technician and an ASE Master Tech. Known for his technical expertise, leadership, and commitment to raising the bar for automotive service. Under his guidance, ABR Houston has earned Best of the Best honors from the Houston Chronicle Carfax, Top Shop Awards, and more than 675 star reviews, Google reviews. A testament to the shop's reputation for quality and trust. Alex's journey is as hands-on it gets, from turning wrenches and training techs to running a fast-growing business and serving on the advisory board for Klein ISD's auto program. He's passionate about fixing the industry, not just cars, and brings a blend of technical fluency and business savvy to everything he does, whether he's mentoring the next generation or speaking bluntly about what shops need to do better. Alex is a true leader in the world of independent auto shop repair. And it's great to have you here to speak with you today.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No worries. So you've been in the industry for quite some time, 23 years, and you've worn just about every hat within being a tech to a trainer to even being a business owner now. What first drew you to the automotive industry, and what keeps you passionate after all these years?
I think that I was born with the mechanical ability to fix things. And I say this in the sense that whatever toy I got taken apart. And I'm seeing this now in my own son. I've caught him in the kitchen taking apart the air fryer. And so this is just something that is ingrained in my DNA of take things apart to see how things work. And that's just where it all came from. Really, the big thing beyond that was I came from a modest background, and my parents did, everything they could to make sure that I had a great upbringing, and I appreciate them so much. But when it came to fixing cars or getting something on the road, that was all me. So I bought my first car when I was 14 and worked on it myself, rewired it myself, rebuilt the engine myself. It was just one of those things where it was a challenge, and I know I'm dating myself, but there was no internet to figure out, or YouTube, whatever I was trying to fix. I literally had to just sort it out and use critical thinking to be able to identify it. And I think that's what really sharpened my young mind to be able to really figure out cars in general.
For sure. No, that's a great upcoming. I kind of have a similar story. I was 15. I bought my first car. It was a Volkswagen GTI, a Mark IV. And I decided to turbo the VR6 with no knowledge of doing it, and I ended up doing it, surprisingly. But I'm a similar story, but then again, I had YouTube to go through everything. So it helped, not everything, but it helped me out for sure. Where, it definitely made a huge difference to your upcoming. It would make you super sharp. And just that experience of doing that with not knowing much about automotive when you first got into it, that's really cool.
Yep.
Can you tell the audience what you guys do at ABR Houston, just so they can get a better feel of who you guys are?
Sure. We're problem solvers. We work on predominantly European cars, BMW, Rolls-Royce, Mini Cooper, Audi, Volkswagen, Porsche, Mercedes. But that's not all we work on. We can practically work on any vehicle that comes to the door, but we specialize in European cars. If it's outside of our wheelhouse, we refer you to a friend of ours that are down the street or a shop that we know that will take care of you as good as we do. At the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure that your vehicle's fixed, and we do that through just transparent, honest, and reliable ways of being able to show you, here's what needs to be taken care of, and here's what stuff maybe we can wait for a little bit.
For sure. No, that's awesome. And how do the shops around you, do you guys build a community to help each other out instead of take each other's competition?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, there's plenty of fish in the sea. And when I first started my business, I looked at every other shop as competition and the enemy. And at the end of the day, we all need to work together. Independents have to stay together in order to be able to work cohesively and be able to ultimately get these cars fixed. So I network with every single shop that's around me, literally with a box of cookies and a handshake. Like I have literally gone to every single car shop around my business within 20 miles multiple times to ensure that they understand that I'm here. I'm not a threat. I want them to ultimately be able to say yes. And if they can't, for them to be able to have a surefire way of being able to send their client to a place they know it's going to get it fixed correctly. So that's what I do, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I have verbal diarrhea. I will talk and talk and talk and talk, and being able to walk into these automotive shops, and instead of just being like, "Hey, how are you doing?" like, "Hey, what's going on?" and actually be able to talk a little shop with them and understand what their problems are, and understand that like we're all here together. We all have to get these cars fixed. So let's work together rather than do this to each other.
No, that's awesome. That's super great. And a lot of the shops that I've talked to, not even shops, dealerships as well, they all seem to work together, and they all want to do it as a community, because as soon as you start looking at competition, things go south. If you can work together, maybe one shop's having an issue where they can't fix a European car where you guys specialize in. They come talk to you guys, "Hey, have you ever had this issue, or do you want to take over this problem for us?" Because they're not, obviously they don't specialize in the European side. So it definitely makes a huge hand. And even just for the knowledge aspect, maybe it's an upcoming young shop that he's just getting his feet on the ground and getting things moving, and he comes to you with 23 years of experience. That's really going to help him get moving forward with the company for sure.
Well, I mean, that's what you have to do, right? It's I guess you don't have to do it, but for me to be able to give someone a nugget of information or knowledge that I wish I had when I was in their shoes is super gratifying. To see someone struggle and go, "Hey, look, do it this way, and you might be able to make this turn around really quickly," and actually see them use it is fantastic. And I love seeing other small businesses succeed.
I bet, for sure. Do you have a kind of like a community group chat where you guys are all in touch, making sure no one's in trouble, or do you guys are like a kind of a mentor absolutely. That everyone, for sure?
Absolutely. No, I've got Facebook groups that are mine that I have personally vetted these owners into, and yeah, it's fantastic to be able to put a post into this and go, "Listen, I've got this car. Does anybody want it?" And have someone go, "Yeah, I'll take it." Cool. Now I have a direct awesome. Transfer for that client to go over there. But we can also do a couple of other things that are great, because now we are working as a large conglomerate. We can work on getting, let's say, shop supplies. Let's say brake cleaner. Rather than me buy one drum, well, we can buy now 5 drums and use the power of us collectively to be able to lower our prices. Or who's got a special tool that I need, right? So we can just put a post in there, and we can trade cars back and forth. We can trade tools back and forth. Really, it's just a little cohesive community. It works out really good.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's nice that you guys get along with the shops around, and you guys are always looking out for each other, having each other's back. How do you educate customers about kind of specialized services versus generic shops or dealerships?
That's something I don't think I'm ever going to be able to win the battle of. And the reason why I say that is car repair in general has become so technologically advanced that most clients in general still think that we're fixing the car with a flathead screwdriver and a little hammer to tap on something. And so the unfortunate side of that is car repair in general gets looked at as a commodity rather than a service. And that's the really the bummer thing about our industry. Our repair, testing, assessment, diagnosis, understanding what's wrong with the car, being able to have the correct tooling, whatever else, is so undervalued, undermined, and oversimplified.
For sure.
At the consumer level. They think that we simply plug something in and it just tells us the magic problem of what's wrong with the car. It sounds crazy, but I've literally had someone tell me, "Oh, it's just nuts and bolts. You just take it off and put it back on." Well, if that's the case, why aren't you doing it? And so exactly. It's frustrating when the amount of brain power, ability, skill, and overall experience gets condensed and thrown in the waste bin because they think that we're just dirty knuckle draggers that don't have any type of education. And it's simply not the truth. We have to continuously train our employees and our staff and our management to be able to make sure that we stay concurrent with the cars that are coming to us on a day-to-day basis.
For sure, and especially with these days now, like look at how much technology are inside vehicles with all the sensors for parking sensors and even driving sensors on your mirrors and everything. Like everything has picked up the last 10 years like crazy, and then having to figure out a process on diagnosing these wiring systems, diagnosing these harnesses, and really going through it, because it's a lot of knowledge that you have to intake, especially with all the wiring that and everything they're implementing technology based now. Yeah, it's crazy. That you answered the next question I was going to have. I was going to say, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have on shops or even working in shops, and you just answered them there for me.
Yeah.
Who was your biggest role model when you're in your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh man, that's an easy one. That was my high school teacher. His name was Chuck Bro, and Mr. Bro in high school treated us like adults, held us accountable, punished us accordingly, and it was a phenomenal learning experience to have a teacher treat you like a young adult instead of a child.
Sure.
He saw that I had a talent, and he focused on it. He pulled me aside. He goes, "Look, Lex, you got some skill under your belt. I really want to work on that. So let's see what we can do to really turn you into a technician." And I said, "Okay." I just like working on cars. I like taking things apart and putting them back together again. And I give you an example of I used to work on the employees, the teachers' cars, and students' cars. So pushes in an old Honda Civic, and you remember I graduated in 1999, so let's say a 92 Honda Civic, right?
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, the clutch is bad. Change the clutch." Well, I've never worked on a front-wheel drive car. I've never taken a transmission out of a front-wheel drive car. I've never done a clutch on a front-wheel drive car. I've never really even sat in a Honda before. Okay, so I took it apart and I put a clutch in it. I put it back together again. He goes, "That's phenomenal. You beat flat rate." I'm like, "Well, what's flat rate?" And I had no idea that I had beat the book time as a 15, 16-year-old kid.
That's crazy.
And put a clutch in this car, didn't have any bolts left over. And that's when it really, like the wick really started to turn up, where he said, "Okay, cool, let's really start working on a path for you." And he was my number one influencer and my number one person to thank in my entire automotive industry is my high school teacher, which is the reason why I try to pour back into my community by being an advisory board member since I think 2016 or so with Klein ISD, which has multiple high schools. And so we do a pretty regular schedule of shop room class visits to make sure they have the right education, curriculum, tools, and ability to be able to teach young people that, you know what, this is actually an okay career. If you really put your head to it, this is something you can make good money at, and you don't get burdened with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt going to school.
For sure. No, that's super cool. And I remember when I was in high school, we had an amazing manufacturing side program, and our teacher was the same way. If you wanted to learn and you had that drive to learn, he'd take you to the side, make sure he taught you stick, make sure he taught you TIG and MIG welding, make sure he taught you everything. He'd make sure that you were super skilled on the CNC machines as well. He's a great individual, and I probably wouldn't be where I am now with even custom building because I have TIGged all my exhaust, and my basic knowledge has come from him and him motivating me to keep going and keep pursuing what I love. And it's huge having that role model there for you, especially at such a young age, right? High school, you have no idea what you want to do. But if you have someone that wants to help you find a path, it really helps you out to help you guide you in a direction. And I think we need more of that, right? We need more people that are actually passionate about taking people where they want to be.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, that's the truth. I went to Universal Technical Institute, and it was unfortunate. And I went there because I thought that was the next step of education after high school. I went there and I was dealing with teachers that were essentially washed out technicians. technicians that hurt themselves in the field and they couldn't work anymore, but they didn't know anything else. They couldn't do anything else. The problem was they certainly weren't teachers, and they weren't mentors, and they weren't people that would pour into you. They would rather argue with you. And it was a shame because remember, I'm 18 years old, 19 years old, going to school.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the world. I don't know anything about the automotive world. I am just really, really vague and naive to how life works, right?
Yeah.
And I'm betting my grade against a teacher who's probably in his 30s that's not how it works. And while it sounds like I'm a cocky jerk, no, it was the real fact that we had teachers that weren't teachers. They literally were just talking heads out of a book. I had to have a teacher literally write on the whiteboard, just literally write word for word out of the book on the whiteboard and never say anything in class, and then you just wipe it off. Is that teaching? No. For him, that's a job. And for us, we're paying for that guy to be there to teach us. And that's what really frustrated me about UTI was it was a puppy mill. It wasn't there to actually teach technicians. So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. You've got to find a person who will pour into you. And on the other side, I talk to people, I've talked to shop owners, whatever else, to try to just give them a couple nuggets and help them out. And it falls on deaf ears. And you know what? I can't help the unwilling. And I'm not saying I know everything, but, if I can see an obvious defect in someone's business or whatever else, and if they're not willing to take that information, same thing goes. The student has to be accepting of a teacher's sayings, right? So
for sure, yeah, it goes both ways, right?
Right.
If and you speaking when you kind of were out of high school, I was the same way. I took a truck and coach technician course to get my apprenticeship, and there were some teachers that were great, and they're retired from the trade, but they know the stuff in the trade and they know how to teach it. And then you'd get some that haven't been in the trade for years, and they don't know how to teach at all, and they're like. And we were diesel techs, right? So we're up to like 60,000 PSI at minimum. And they were still at 30. They still knew that fuel injection was 30 PSI.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a huge gap there, and they didn't know what was actually changing in the industry for us newcoming techs to know what the heck's going on with the trucks, because they were still working on the trucks from the 90s. And they just thought like it's something that really needs to be looked at, needs help, really, because we need to make sure that we're getting actual teachers that still know what they're talking about as well, and up to relevant information. So it's amazing that you're on the board helping fund these programs for these kids coming out of high school, giving them a little bit of direction, giving them the tools and the knowledge that they're going to need to really succeed in the field. I think that's super great.
Yeah, it's good times.
For sure. What tools, training, or technology investments have been made the biggest difference in ABR in recent years with kind of all the technology that's been coming out? What have been some of the biggest investments that you've made over the years for newcoming technologies that are going to be introducing into the automotive industry?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing I've seen move in the last, I'd say, 10 years is the requirement of having to use OEM level diagnostic tools and having to purchase their specific diagnostic laptops, computers, software, whatever, along with having to pay for their subscriptions in order to access this information. Now, I think that's really the big reason why you can kind of cut the wheat from the chaff when it comes to a professional shop that has dealer or OEM manufacturer level training and diagnostic tools versus a shop that just has a generic scan tool, doesn't have the ability to program or encode, doesn't have factory wiring diagrams, factory repair manuals, or training materials. And that's probably become the biggest expense out of that. And I can give you an example. Like Mercedes has what's called a Zentry, which is their diagnostic tool. And it's a $35,000 tool. Like the barriers of entry to purchase that is $35,000. And they just recently raised the price of the subscription to, I think, $21,000 or $22,000 for 48 months worth of subscription time. So because of that, you're in this thing for $50,000. Now, you've got to be a very well run, organized, and shop that has the workload to be able to use that on a daily basis in order to get your return on investment, right?
For sure.
But it doesn't stop there. You still have tools and subscription for BMW, Rolls-Royce, Mini Cooper, Audi, Volkswagen. They all have their own program. They all have their own subscriptions, and they're all in the thousands of dollars per year annually. Then now we're dealing with universal scan tools like an Autel, and it's $2,500 to keep that alive on the backside of that, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you're spending $50,000 a year in subscriptions and tooling just to let your technicians talk to these cars. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to touch and do everything, even on a car that has manufacturer tooling. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge disconnect in what shops have to pay versus what consumers believe. I believe that they think that these tools that we're getting are maybe a couple $100, and we just plug them in and it magically tells us the problem, and all we have to do is just throw a part at the car. And like I said earlier, it just bolts, and we just take it apart and put it back on. And in the meantime, we just charge excessively for it. And I think that's one of the huge things that is that disconnect between consumer and business. And I think that's really in any service, any business, is how much it actually costs to have a business run versus what the consumer believes it costs and how much profit they're actually making. So that's that. And then also with training. So I just looked at training because I've got 2 locations, and I've got technicians and staff at both locations. I've got to figure out how to train both of them without essentially stopping the train along the way, right? So sending a technician, or let's say 2 technicians to a training I looked at yesterday, I just posted it in our Slack group for our technicians. Just the training is $4,000 for 4 days. And so I still have to take care of airfare, food, pay them to go, and hotel as well. So at the end of the day, I'll probably be looking around $6,500 or more to send 2 technicians for 4 days. And I have to hope that they have some type of takeaway that they can then spread to their other cohorts in the shop for them to make that return on investment valid. Now, what else could I have done with that $6,500? I practically could have paid a little bit more maybe and just had a technical trainer physically come to my shop and have him train everybody at one time maybe. So I think the ability to train technicians and staff is coming to an area where, is it cheaper to split the cost of sending a technician, trainer, or a member to come here and train your staff with another shop and pay them to come in-house, or is it more beneficial to send your technician to a training expo or seminar to have them learn which way gives best return on investment, and how can they propagate that information to other employees as well?
For sure. No, that's a great point. And in your opinion, do you think you're gonna push more towards sending your employees out so they can gain that knowledge in-house, or are you thinking on talking to your community and really bringing a training group or one trainer in and get the whole community around your shop to all join in on that and get some knowledge all at the same time?
That is, again, we're at that level right now, right? I've got about 20 employees, and it's not just one shop with a couple guys, right? Where we could all just close up, let's say on a Thursday, and come back on Monday, and no harm, no foul. I've got multiple employees at both locations, so it's getting to that point where I think it's worth to just bring a trainer in, especially splitting it between my 2 locations, and giving a complete class for, let's say, 2 days for all my technicians, in-house, because I can save on all the airfare, the hotel, of all those employees going to, let's say, the East Coast or Florida or wherever else. The benefits, in my opinion, is huge there. Now, there are other places I do like to send them, like WorldPack, which is a industry parts supplier. They have one called STX, and it's a great time. But again, we're going back to how much does it cost? Is it worth sending them because these people are off site? And what's the return on investment on them coming back? Beamers is another one. ASA is another one. Ratchet and Wrench is another one. There's so many huge conventions out there. But what is the return on investment of spending the time, money, and energy to go to one to be able to bring that money back? To bring that information back. That's the big question. I think that a lot of shop owners now wonder: is it worth it? And how do I do it in-house now?
For sure. No, that makes total sense, especially with how fast everything's changing, like we were talking about earlier. Going back to the scan tools and everything, back to technology as well, do you think there's going to be a change and there's going to be AI programs that are going to be able to plug into any OEM and give you that information? Or do you think OEMs are going to lock up even tighter now that they have this AI being introduced?
Yes, no, maybe so. That's a lawyer's answer. It depends. If I had that crystal ball, I'd be sitting on a beach right now. We'd be drinking drinks on the beach. But really, at the end of the day, where that comes from is AI being ingrained in everything is going to be inevitable. And it seems to be the darling hotbed of what everybody wants to do is get AI in everything, right? Mm-hmm. What I think is going to happen is eventually AI is going to be in so much stuff that humans in general will desire actual human interaction rather than AI. And I think we're already starting to see it already, where everybody has, the phone answerer, the call recorder, the chat box, the whatever, right? Yeah. And I'm sure everybody goes, talk to human, speak to human, talk to whatever, right? And so AI, I think, can be useful in some ways in the sense of I can look at a car and I can take its Carfax history and I can say, like, when was the last time the transmission's been serviced? How many oil services has it had? And what is the interval between each oil service that Carfax has recorded? When's the last time a cabin filter's been done? When's the last time a brake fluid exchange has been done? And it can spit it out. And so I can see some efficiency helpful pieces in that sense. I can also see AI perhaps helping with a fault code, an intermittent issue. If it has some type of access to other cars from other independents saying, this model has had this issue and through Carfax and other things, we've noticed that this repair gets done a lot and you have the same fault codes and it's very similar. And I can see that helping out tremendously. But I'm sure everybody has also used AI and it's given you completely wrong and non-factual information when you even tell it, don't lie to me, right? Yeah. And so there are still limitations. Probably in the next 10 years, it's going to be so advanced we won't be able to really know the difference between a human and an AI bot or whatever. And I'm fine with that because it's going to go back to what we should all be doing right now anyways, which is creating human relationships and talking to people, rather than relying on AI and computers to talk to our clients for us.
No, for sure. That's a great point. And back to kind of helping technicians out and diagnosing things, I think it's going to be a huge benefit, especially once we get some of the data from vehicles, right? Because I'm assuming no one's really been storing vehicle data, say this is fault code, this is what happened. But in the next 10 years, once we start getting a lot of recordings of what happened and why, and we get that data, put it into AI, and you ask it, hey, I have this code, or this is wrong, what do you think the cause is, and how do I fix it? It'll give you a nice list on what it is, and I think that's going to be super beneficial for technicians and make the diagnosing process simpler as long as it has the information.
Well, I can say, there is a gentleman in the industry, his name is Chris Chesney, and he has been, I think, probably on the forefront of actually plugging into cars physically, reading the information, the stored data out of them, and compiling that. He actually has a help center, actually, where if you have a fault code or a problem, you can call in, and he has technicians with OEM level scan tools for them to be able to remotely come in and diagnose that issue with you, right? And so absolutely, if you think that plugging into a car and it not saving the car's information, the historicals, the current faults, the mileages, the timestamps, how many times it's happened, absolutely that's happening right now. Where it's being compiled, I'm not exactly sure. We just say conveniently in the cloud. But I believe that's going to be part of that, and we'll end up having to pay for that. I'm sure, where they say, listen, we've got 20,000 cars, 50,000 cars, and we've seen these faults happen. This at this mileage, this is usually what it is, right?
Yeah.
But here we go back to, you just plug it in and it tells you what's wrong with it. It's still not a technician getting on that car, understanding the dynamics of what's going on with it, and physically figuring out what the issue is. Not having a computer just tell us, this is the problem. So we're still back to that human interface of car versus tech.
Yeah, no, for sure. And with this building out this technology, it's going to make technology inside vehicles even more advanced as well, which is going to make it even harder for technicians as well. There's always going to be that gap between human and technology for sure. And how advanced is coming right now, it's almost impossible to stay up to date with all the new technologies being released, right?
It is. It's crazy. The security that manufacturers are putting in on cars is absolutely insane. Practically all vehicles now have a MAC address, essentially like a firewall, when it comes to being able to talk to anything inside their network. Now, federally, obviously, they have to release data to the onboard diagnostic plug, the OBD plug. Right? They have to. That's federal law. But if I want to get into any of their control modules, look at their bus systems, read faults out of their control modules that aren't federally mandated, forget it. Unless you have an OEM level tool that can get through the MAC, their MAC address or their firewall or their Ethernet blocking device, which is built into it, just like a computer's router or a server, you're not getting into it. And what's crazy is now there's devices that physically go around these devices to be able to get around these firewalls, so to speak. And it involves literally taking off plugs and plugging in essentially like a loop that goes around them. So absolutely, manufacturers are just going to tighten this up. Security is going to get much more tighter. And even then, look at a new Porsche. You have to tell it, I would like to talk to you so I can reset the oil light, please.
Yeah.
Like, cool. You've got 20 minutes while this gateway is open to do whatever you got to do because it's going to get shut down again. Things of that nature.
Crazy.
I think it's just going to get worse and worse. We have to do two-factor to be able to open up some of our diagnostic tools, facial recognition scans, for us to be able to say that I am the authorized person to be able to talk to this car. And then to muddy the waters even more, we've got to deal with the NASTF, the National Auto Safety Task Force, that handles basically all of the security features of the automotive world to independents. And I have to go through them and get background checks. I have to pay money to be able to use their tools for them to give us some other may-I so I can order I can order a part from a dealership. Because if not, that car has to go to the dealership. Now, then we get muddied into the right to repair. Corson, you should be able to order a part for your car. There should be no that's like dot the end. You should be able to order a part for your car. And there should be no restrictions whatsoever. But in the meantime, I should be able to order any part for your car as well, right? Maybe I can just order a key and take away with it. So there are some checks and balances there, but the right to repair is, again, another huge thing that people don't understand. Like, it's difficult for me to order a part from Mercedes to be able to fix their car. It's difficult. Having a driver's license and the title and the registration and having to go through NASTF and then getting the mother may I, then going to the dealership and having to do this dance to be able to get a part released to us is incredibly difficult. And again, consumers don't care. They just want their car fixed. They don't know why it takes 5 days. They don't know. They don't care. They just want their car fixed.
Yeah, exactly. And manufacturers and OEMs aren't helping, right? Because they want them to come back to their own dealership. They want them to keep bringing that service back to their hometown. But then what happens if that dealership pisses them off? Where are they supposed to go? They can't go anywhere else to get their vehicle fixed, right? if we end up getting to that point, like there might not be actual service shops in the area because everything's so locked up and you can't get anything. They might not sell the diagnostic tools for OEMs. It's going to be quite the future we're running into, and I guess all we can do is wait and see what's going to happen, right? Like I'm not too sure really.
At the end of the day, independents have a very, very easy goal, which is beat the client service that the dealerships give you. And they put that bar so low, it's easy to just trip over it, right? The problem is dealerships sell their parts at or below cost, and the manufacturers will reimburse them. BMW does that. They'll do a brake job cheaper than I can buy the parts for with genuine parts. And it's not because the dealership is losing any money. It's because BMW North America is reimbursing them for that in order to get that car to come in through the shop, right? We're dealing with things of that nature. We're dealing with $50 an hour labor rates at some dealerships, again, because the manufacturer is reimbursing them that money just to get that car out of our hands. But at the end of the day, I will pay. Now, this is me personally. I will pay more money for better service and a better job than I will just look at the cheapest price. I want the best value, not the cheapest. And those are two distinct different things. On the other hand, we have people that look for the very cheapest, and they don't understand the difference is in economic terms. You cannot have the same product for the cheapest versus someone who's, let's say, 30% more. So it's a very complex and what do you want to call it? Multifaceted angle of business when it comes to dealers versus independents and how independents can function, and also show that we're still a better source for your car repair than the dealership in multiple ways. You just can't look at costs.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's something we're gonna see what the future comes and what the future brings. But like you said, you're gonna have people that take super good care, like a lot of automotive car enthusiasts that love their vehicle. A lot of people love their vehicle, right? They want the best for their vehicle. It's like someone's dog. They want the best for their dog. They're gonna buy the best dog food. It's like their vehicle. They want the best service. They want the best parts. And they don't mind putting that money in, because if you put that money in, it's going to last you how much longer, right? And what have you guys seen the difference with working on EVs? Have you guys had any EVs in the shop, and have they been a pain? Have they been all right to work on? And what do you see the future in repair with the EV side of things?
I mean, I've got a level 2 charger at my big store here. I had a Lightning myself. In fact, there's a Lightning plugged into our level 2 at the moment.
Super cool.
And so EVs aren't something that we shy away from. We've obviously been trained in our European cars. I've got master BMW, Audi, Volkswagen technicians back there. So when it comes to German EVs or hybrids, I'm not scared of them at all. Teslas have been difficult, but recently they have released their own diagnostic tool called Toolbox, and you are able to at least get into them. Excuse me, I have a random cough that likes to just show up every once in a while.
All good, no worries.
So Teslas, in general, I don't necessarily have a problem working on. We're a dealer for Unplugged Performance, which has suspension components, so we can actually do an alignment, because Tesla, in their infinite wisdom, didn't put any type of alignment angles to be able to adjust the rear suspension on their cars, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And so being able to do a proper alignment so you can get more than 8,000 to 10,000 miles out of a rear set of tires is kind of a nice feature to have. But the way that Tesla's build quality keeps going, we will have work forever. There's some very interesting controversies in build quality when it comes to some EVs. And again, they still need, like I had a client yesterday at my other store. He has a Mercedes, and he's debating a rather large repair on it over a transmission. It's only on a 60,000 mile car. The problem is he ran into a debilitating repair of where the coolant that cools the engine, that cools the transmission oil, has mixed with the transmission. So coolant has gotten into the transmission. We're going to have to do a transmission rebuild in order to fix this problem. Only on a 65,000 mile car.
Wow.
I'm like, look, it makes sense for us to do that. And we started talking, and it turns out he has a BMW X7. His wife came to pick it up, and it died in the driveway of our shop. It needed a battery.
No way.
So it was interesting. Like, hey, look, at least you didn't have to pay for a tow. And it's kind of convenient that it's here at the auto shop. And no, we don't have any like big signs or sensors that kill batteries in the parking lot. Sorry, true coincidence. But he goes, I've got a Tesla, and I haven't done anything for that on that car in 3 years. And this is where, again, we're dealing with client consumer education, right?
Yeah.
That Tesla still needs coolant to be changed out every 4 years. It still needs the brake fluid to be inspected and checked and tested, because the brakes aren't hardly ever used in that car because of regenerative braking. And so the brake fluid needs to be changed. The cabin filters still need to be changed. It still has an air conditioning system. And I'm not even going to get into EV, electric compressors, POE oil, heat pumps, and everything else that's involved with the complexity of heat grids and everything else that HVAC now has on EVs that most technicians have no clue on how to figure out how to make things work. The differentials on Tesla still have oil in them that need to be changed. And they still have pattern failures, right? They have seals that go bad in the electric motors from the coolant. It leaks coolant into the electric motor. And it costs major money to repair a job like that. It's just like changing an engine. And so it's funny because EV owners believe they don't have to do anything to their car forever. And it's simply not the truth. There's still going to be repairs. There's still going to be maintenance. It's going to eat tires like it's the favorite thing to chew on. And it's funny because you can be in a Tesla owner group on Facebook or whatever, and everybody's like, man, I don't do anything to my car. Like they brag over not maintaining their vehicle. And then in the same breath go, why did my tire blow out? I don't know why my tire blew out. Well, because you haven't had anybody look at your car for this whatever span of time it is, and you keep burning tires out. Why do you think that is? So again, we're still dealing with consumer education. We're still dealing with the reality that it's still a vehicle, even though it doesn't put gasoline in it. And there's still going to be pattern failures and problems that all cars are going to have, and they're going to be till the end of time, and they started when they first came out. We're still going to have things to fix. And that's the wonderful thing about this industry. If a technician is trained and gets into the industry, he will have a job no matter where he goes, right? Like, I run the business, right? But let's just think, the end of the world happens and I lose my business, I lose everything, right? I still have a toolbox, and I know that I can still provide for my family because I still know how to work on vehicles at the end of the day. And that's an industry that people don't understand. You can provide for your family forever, essentially, if you know how to work on vehicles. And that's where I think a lot of people go, not really. There's always something that you can do in the automotive industry once you figure out how to work on cars collectively. So,
for sure. No, that's a great point. It's like when I was growing up, my dad always said, if you knew how to weld, you're always going to have a job, because there's always going to need things welded, right?
That's it. I recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, taught myself how to TIG weld, right? Yeah. And so, the learning of how clean you have to make your substrates in order to be able to not contaminate your welds. The importance of fitment and fit up to make sure you don't have any gaps. I was welding 304 stainless. I was building a full exhaust for my dad's Bronco. Back purging to make sure that you don't sugar the backside of your welds. What if you're having to weld a piece of carbon to a piece of stainless? What type of wiring do you use for that, or filler for that? What type of tungsten? Cup size, gas flow. I will forever be a student of TIG welding because it is something that no one, I don't believe, ever really masters. They just get better at it. And so it's the same thing. Welding is a wonderful occupation if you're into that type of thing, when it comes to being out in the elements and working on things. But you can make a wonderful, wonderful career welding because, again, you can pick up a stick anywhere in the world and you have a job.
For sure. Yeah, and it's I find it fun. I love welding. It's awesome. It's super cool to actually see things come together and build things. It's just like it's just like working on vehicles, right?
Hmm.
If you're building a car, you're removing things, you're putting things back together, you see it happen right in front of your eyes. So,
Yep.
yeah, I'm a big fan of welding, and it's just fun. I don't know how else to describe it. Um,
I had the same sentiment. I enjoy it when I'm like, all right, cool. I get to fire the welder up, and I get to get my bench ready, and here we go.
yeah,
Let's get things going. And then the best thing about that is then looking at the weld that you just did and go, okay, what did I do wrong? What was I doing incorrectly? What could I have done the next time to be able to try to do it? And then
for
you have
sure.
that variable of some days, man, I'll tell you what, I can make things look like a stack of diamonds. And other days, I don't know if it's the coffee or what, but boy, I need to
Yeah,
put the stick down. I shouldn't be touching this right now. So it's
it's
very
it's like
interesting
playing
how,
golf. It's like
yeah,
playing golf.
yeah, exactly. So you have your good days
So
and your
funny.
bad days.
Yeah.
And boy, is it's accentuated in a little weld, isn't it? Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's so fun. And then after you gotta get that bucket up to take a look at it right away because you gotta make sure it looks good. But it's so fun. People don't know unless they try, and if they
Yeah,
try it, a lot of people fall in love with it right away. Well, people that I've talked to, and it's a challenge, and I think that's why I like it. It's mentally challenging and it's physically challenging as well
absolutely.
to be
Absolutely.
good. Yeah. So you guys have rapidly grown over the last 13 years. What have been some of the biggest challenges and milestones in scaling the business?
The biggest challenge in my business is me. I am my own worst enemy, and there's a lot to unpack there, right?
Yeah.
I've always been a driven individual. I've always been a person who wants to do better, be bigger, whatever you want to call it. And I was like that as a technician. I could flag 100 hours in a week and go, that was great, but I could probably do 105 next week. And too much is never enough for me, and that's
Yeah.
just how I'm wired, right? And with the way that the business has been growing, is very interesting in the fact that I am its limitation to how fast and how big it can grow.
Mm.
And one of the biggest things that I can give a takeaway of is reading and learning, right? It's interesting when you speak to a technician or a shop owner specifically, and they're struggling with their business, right? You go, what's the last book you've read? And they go, probably like Lord of the Flies in high school, right? They haven't touched a book in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And it's like, why do you think your business is struggling? Because you're missing the education to be able to take it to the next level. How are you going to get that education? You can do it the hard way, which is through pain and your wallet, because that's the only way real world experience is learned. Or you can
Yeah.
actually try to put some self-education into you and learn. So for the last 10 years or so, I've been reading between 40 and 50 books a year. I
Wow,
listen to
that's awesome.
Audible, and so Audible is my way to go, right? My truck is my university. I don't
Yeah.
listen to music Monday through Friday. I am only listening to audiobooks and podcasts of self-education, self-help management, business acumen, and then how to do things better, right? And so one of the things that really you got to look into is how much are you pouring into yourself? How much are you putting into your business? And that was my issue. My issue
Yeah.
is I just didn't know, right? I got a shop coach that helped out phenomenally. I got a different shop coach that helped out phenomenally. And that's the thing is you've got to get someone who knows what's going on to help you, right? Whether you find a mentor or you pay someone, you've got to
For
be able
sure.
to eat and absorb everything that they throw at you and then come up with some type of actionable plan to actually do it. And then eventually you run out of things and information out of them, and you got to move to another person, right? And you've got to
Yeah.
continuously keep trying to learn, grow, and get bigger. And if you don't surround yourself with people who are also motivated in that same way, you're just going to be the same as them, right?
Yeah.
So I try to be always the guy who's in the room that is the smallest fish, right? Because if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. So
Yeah.
always surround yourself with people who can help you always try to contribute back to them. And you may not be able to help them in business or whatever else, but you can help them with support. You can help them with advocacy. You can help them just being a friend. Because, man, of course, man, I'm telling you, man, this is tough. It's lonely being a business owner. It's extremely lonely being a business owner. Why? Because all you do, breathe, eat, sleep, and think about is your business. You have no friends that want to go watch football or whatever else, right? You're only surrounded by other business owners, and sometimes like it gets a little lonely because you don't have that normal employee feel of go to work, take care of work, turn the light switch off, go be a human not at work. And that's where it gets tough. And so, man, you really got to pour into yourself. And that was my biggest issue is I was my biggest holdback. And it took me a long time for me to learn where I am now. And now, man, I got my foot to the floor. And so I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to get bigger. I'm trying to increase my presence, ultimately help people get their cars fixed. And lastly, find employees that like working with me. I really enjoy my base of guys here. They are really, really good dudes. And I enjoy being able to have camaraderie with them. I enjoy motivating them. I enjoy watching them grow, really. So that's the biggest thing is you are your worst enemy. Don't be your worst enemy. And when you notice that you're not growing, you have to go get uncomfortable and go do something, whether that's training or whatever else, so you can continue to grow.
For sure. No, that's amazing. Alex, I love how you actually went out there and got that mentorship. You got that knowledge to know how to run a business, because there's a lot of companies out there. They're like, oh, I'll start an automotive company or I'll start a construction company, not knowing you need a business background, or not a background, but you need business knowledge to run a business. It's not like
absolutely.
It's not in like the 80s when you just knew how to work, right? You have so much marketing, you have so much in sales, you have so much knowledge in financing in this day and age of a business that you really need to leverage those things to really succeed, because everyone else is doing the same, right? You need to be that next step. And I love how you took the time, you took that money, you just took the time to get in contact with people that can help you out and find that next step as well once you got all the knowledge from them. I think education is priceless, like you said, right? I think you can spend as much money on education as you want. As long as you retain that knowledge, you can always make an ROI on that knowledge, and it's always going to stick with you. So that's why I think knowledge and education is the most important thing. As long as it's the right education, like we said earlier, you can pay for education to go to school, but you might not be learning from teachers. So you just got to make sure that you're getting that right knowledge and that right education the proper way.
Back to what I was saying earlier, you can go to all the classes, you can read all the books you want, but if you don't apply anything out of it, it's worthless. So you have to take what you learn and apply it. You have to apply it, or at least attempt to.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I love how you're stepping up and doing that, because I still know business owners to this day and age that don't take that next step to actually apply business knowledge. They just run a shop because that's what they know. They know how to work on vehicles. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck.
That's it. And that is a technician stuck in an entrepreneurial seizure.
Yeah.
That is from Michael Gerber's The E-Myth Revisited, which I recommend any person to read. Any person who thinks they want to start a business, any person who started a business and doesn't know what's going on, The E-Myth Revisited is absolutely the number one book that I can recommend any business owner, period, dot, the end, to understand you have to work on your business, not in it. It took a long time for me to do that. Look, I still want to turn wrenches. Like I have an old truck that I like working on, right? And it's got a modern engine in it, and I blew it all apart on Sunday because that's the only day I have to work on it is a Sunday. So I came up here and I blew the whole thing apart so I can put some hot rod parts on it, right? I still miss working on cars. I still miss taking things apart, and I have to satisfy that OCD of wanting, or ADHD, LMNOP, whatever you want to call it, of me taking things apart and putting it back together again, because that's still who I am. I'm just having to focus that energy towards business rather than working on a car, because obviously working on the business is much more worth my money and time and effort and ROI than it is for me fixing a vehicle. But I still have that want, desire, and need to turn wrenches. It'll
For
never
sure.
leave. It'll never leave. I'm always going to have that.
Yeah, no, and you've had it since you were young, right? It's just you're taking the next step to learn. You're learning while being an entrepreneur as well, right? Like that's amazing. Like you're not stuck on turning wrenches. You're learning. You're taking new steps, and that's what a lot of people have to do because a lot of people get stuck. I
Hmm.
just want to turn wrenches, and then they own a business, but they just want to turn wrenches, but they don't know how to run a
Correct.
business, and they don't know how to get the knowledge. So it's nice to see people actually gaining knowledge, and I appreciate you talking about the book because that might be something I'm going to look into as well, for
Let's
sure.
go.
Where do you want to see ABR Houston in a few years down the road, and what are those little goals that you have in place to get there?
Ooh, that's a good question. ABR is probably going to have 3 to 5 locations. I'll
Hmm.
probably have 50-ish employees. Um, and I want the
That's
place to
awesome.
run autonomously, and I want to be able
Yeah,
to goof off with my own vehicles. Does that sound terrible?
yeah.
Uh,
Sounds
I
like a
mean,
great plan.
I want to be able to play around with my cars, build and create and make things because that's what makes me the most happy.
Yeah.
I built my dad's 68 Bronco, and it was a nut bolt, every single thing, OCD, CDO in that order. And it was incredibly satisfying being able to build something at the highest level that I could, right? And this thing, again, it's a 68 Bronco, and there's a bunch of Broncos out there, right? But this one has a praise for one of the highest in the nation. And it's
Wow.
great being able to understand that I built that and I have that skill, right? And
Yeah.
doing that type of thing is things I enjoy doing. So I want to be able to continue doing that and doing it at my leisure rather than having to focus on the business as much. I want the business to kind of run on its own a little bit more than what I do.
For sure. No, that's a great goal, and then back to the hands-on, right? You want to get back to wrenching and back to what you love doing, and that's part of the entrepreneurs. You can take those big steps, and you can actually get back to the foundation of where you started, and
But
get that freedom back.
that step is usually the step that no small business owner can or does take.
Yeah.
They're always stuck in the same loop of I have to work on the business. I have no time for me. And I'm realizing that like I'm no spring chicken anymore. I've got 2 young kids. I have to I have to really pay attention to business and life and when it comes to that, right? And the
For
only
sure.
person that's going to remember that you worked overtime is your kids. And so I have to really focus on that right now is making sure that I am present for my family and for myself because man, life goes quick. That sounds really cliche, but I'm telling you, my dude, I was your age and I thought that you live forever and you don't. So
Yeah.
don't waste your time being young because boy, it just goes away faster. So that's what I'm really focusing on right now is being able to release myself to be able to work on me and be able to spend time with my family. So that's my
That's
number
awesome.
one.
That's awesome, and that's what you focus on, right? That's what, like you said, your plan, your goals, and where you guys want to be. It's all going to line up, right? And as long as you keep focusing on that, eventually it's going to lay down and it's going to happen because you've taken those extra steps to really guide your business in the way that you want it. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah, but
Um,
a goal without a plan is just a dream. So without a
yeah,
plan and without it being worked on a daily basis, you're just going to dream about that for the rest of your life. So there's a huge distinct difference between actually eventually it will, no it won't. You have to make it will. Because if you
yeah,
believe it'll eventually will, it'll never happen.
for sure. No, that's another great add on there. Thank you very much. Um, what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur wanting to get into the automotive repair space, or yeah, the automotive repair space?
Come on in, the water's fine. Come on. Just be ready for just be ready for it. And I guess the number one thing that any entrepreneur needs to understand is you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You will
Yeah,
never grow when you are comfortable. You'll never grow. And so that's probably my biggest takeaway from recent training I just went to. I went to muster through Echelon Front with Jocko Willen and Leif Babin. And that was probably my biggest takeaway out of that is you'll never grow if you're comfortable. So that'd be my biggest point to tell anybody is, man, I've had my head in my hands, teared up, frustrated multiple times, and I'm sure it'll happen again. I'm sure. It's not it won't. Life is going to make things really difficult, and it's going to test your will and strength to be able to continue on, and you have to be able to be accepting of that and really dig into it when it happens, because that's when the universe is trying to help you grow. So be ready to hit some roadblocks and hit them full force and just keep going.
Oh, that's awesome. And when you said if you get comfortable, that's when you how did you say that again? When you're comfortable, you don't grow.
Correct.
And it's totally true, right? Like and I listen to Gary Brecka, he's a human biologist, big into health space. And he's like, aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. And it's so true. If you're I don't want to dig on 9 to 5 workers, but if you're working a 9 to 5 job, you love your job, you go home, everything's relaxed, everything's super chill, and you're comfortable, you're never going to gain knowledge, you're never going to gain confidence, you're never going to gain strength, you're never going to level up as a human being, and you're going to slowly age, and you're not going to grow, right? And that's the whole point of life, is to grow. We want to become the best versions of ourselves and get as much knowledge as we can, and a lot of us get lost on that journey.
I agree, but you also have to have the drive and the will to want to do that. And you know what? There's a ton of people out there that are content with their life, and I wish I could be that person sometimes. I really wish I could be just content and happy with what I have. But again, I am just wired differently, and I always want to do better, be better, get bigger. It's just one of those things where some people have that, and that's their place in their world. I have figured out in life that I cannot be an employee of other people. I throw too many rocks in the water. I make too many people upset. And it's not because I'm doing it maliciously. It's because I want the place to do better. I want myself to be able to do better there. And, ultimately it got me fired from 2 different dealerships. I mean, it is what it is. To get police escorted off of the property, you're doing good, right? And so really, I found my calling by owning my own business, and I found my path that I want to walk down. It just took me a little bit of time to understand that I can't work for anybody else.
For sure. And that's a lot of people, right? A lot of people have big goals, big goals, and they have plans to do it. They just need to take that first step and do it. And that's any entrepreneur, right?
Get uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's awesome. Where can people find you? Your website, I see it's on the wall posted behind you there. Social media.
Yeah, ABR Houston is pretty much tagged on everything when it comes to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever, TikTok. I mean, I try to get on those things and do silly videos and whatever else. And I do a weekly blog every week. I do an automotive blog. I have a newsletter set up on LinkedIn if you wanted to check me out there. We also post it onto our website every week. I also have it on Medium and a couple other locations. So I want to show people that I'm approachable and able to talk cars in a level that they can understand, and also show that I'm an industry expert in what I'm talking about. Therefore, come see me. Let me fix your vehicles.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on today, Alex. That was a great conversation.
Yeah.
And tons of knowledge in the air today. And that was a great conversation. And I'm definitely going to stick in touch with you.
Great. Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.